Welcome to the FNF Victory Road Draft League Team Analysis Series. In this series, we're going to be going over the teams that participated in the Draft League. And this time around, we are going to be talking about the Star Conquerors, led by Benjamator67, who is here with me. And as people might remember, this team was actually previously the Great Tacticians, led by Kuro. So for those sections, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I heard from Kuro, or from what I saw that Kuro had mentioned, and then we'll be hearing the input from the Star Conquerors from Benji, who is accompanying me in this video today. So if you want to say hi.
Hello.
And we'll start with this initial team. So this was the Great Tacticians by Kuro, his initial draft. It isn't the same, actually, as the draft that Benji had received when he joined. So what I remember from Kuro is that he did try to grab a little bit of the Pokemon that he had before in the preseason. If people remember the preseason, you might remember that he was actually rank 1 in the preseason. He went undefeated and he had the highest differential, so he was coming into this one pretty confident, and he had some pretty good ideas on what he wanted to do. And I think his team reflected that, especially with Celebi and the ZNE privilege. That was something that I think he really wanted to carry over from the last league. He did use Celebi in that one. Ferrothorn and Zygarde were actually really good picks for him as well. He did use those a lot along with Florges. And those three together actually made a really good Dragon Steel Fairy core that was really hard to take down for a lot of different people. Mega Absol, he actually wanted Mega Sableye. I remember we were talking and we were like, okay, on the count of 3, say the Mega you want. And I was like, okay, fine. So we were like, 1, 2, 3, and both of us were like, Mega Sableye. And we were like, oh fuck. But he went before me in the draft, and he actually didn't pick Mega Sableye before me. We had a few turns of truce where we just both didn't pick Mega Sableye, but then eventually I ended up picking Mega Sableye because I needed a Dark type, and he was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I just wanted a Magic Bounce Dark type, and Mega Absol was it. So he went with the more offensive, I went with the more defensive pick, and I ended up barely using Mega Sableye. But that's just how it goes. So he definitely has a nice balanced team that can be both offensive and defensive. I'd classify it as maybe a 6 on the stall to hyper offense scale. Leans a little bit more towards bulky offense. So now we're looking overall at the battle record. As you see, the Star Conquerors logo is here because the Great Tacticians did start out, but the majority of the matches were done by the Star Conquerors team. Actually, when you were first joining the league as the Star Conquerors, the first logo, I think, that I saw for your team, the initial logo had marks on it. And then the second logo came without marks, and I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, because in Kirby Star Allies, I used marks a lot, but I don't know. He was never really my favorite.
I don't know why, but I found it really funny. I was like, he just snapped marks out of the picture. It was like by marks. But yeah, that is a nice picture. I like it. So let's go over a little bit about the battle record. So those first 3 matches, the first 4 matches were not done by you. Overall, how do you think you did in the league? How did you feel about your matches?
I think I did pretty well, saying that, like, I didn't really know what I was doing most of the time. My brother helped me out with the first match against Tiller, and then I started figuring out what else to do on my own. But I still feel like I could have used that Pokemon pretty better.
Yeah, the the match versus Tiller, it was your first match, and after that, I definitely noticed an immediate like improvement. Like that first match was kind of like, okay, what am I doing a little bit, and then the second match, you seemed a lot more confident in your decision making. And for someone who wasn't really into competitive Pokemon when you joined, you definitely did really well. You gave a lot of people a run for their money. Canopy Defenders, Edgar, really solid player, and you managed to get a win there. Versus Kingfuse as well. Colin, you almost got the win. So that was actually a really good run for someone who just entered into Pokemon competitive. What did you do to kind of learn your way? I know you said that your brother helped you out, but aside from that, did you like look at Smogon? Did you use a website? Did you just kind of play around in the team builder? Did you just jump into it?
I mainly, what I would do is, like, my brother taught me, like, pretty much what he would do, and I think he did pretty well also, but what he would do was he would look at the opposing opponent's Pokemon, and then he would look on Smogon and see what their stats and like what people would normally do, and then he would like choose a Pokemon that would counter that and others on their team. That's basically what I did, but I did it kind of less smart, but because I mainly focused on like the Pokemon that I expected to be dangerous and not on others, which was kind of my downfall for the last battle against the Detroit Dunsparces.
That's interesting, actually. I think it's good to find the Pokemon that are really strong and to focus on those. I'm curious to hear how that went in that last battle then. Which ones you thought were going to be the stronger ones and which ones you maybe didn't consider as much.
Sorry. I wasn't really expecting the Gudra to be that much of a problem, which kind of spooked me. Yeah, they knew the power of my Ferrothorn, and they kind of used it against me.
Yeah, Sap Sipper. That's yeah. It's interesting too. I mean, I guess we'll talk about it more when we get there. But with Gudra, I always expected to run Hydration in the rain. But yeah, overall, pretty good record. Was there any team that you felt like, okay, this is a really scary matchup? Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do here.
I was mostly scared against when I fought the Canopy Defenders against Edgar. And I was also scared of. I was pretty much scared of everyone. But the Canopy Defenders in Detroit Dunsparces pretty much scared me the most. And I guess the Rio Grande Rapidash. They all had pretty scary teams, and I mean my team could counter them pretty well. But I feel like they were smart and they could definitely exploit my team against me.
Yeah, especially I think Rio Grande Rapidash is one of those teams that's really, really well built. I mean, Ember did an excellent job in building his team. So I definitely see you there. I actually didn't face him, but I was looking at his team and was like, oh damn, this is a scary one. Was there any battle that you felt kind of confident, like, okay, my team is well equipped to handle this particular team?
Definitely on the Detroit Dunsparces, and I mean, I was also a little cocky on the downtown Darmanitan team, which I got curb stomped by. I felt a little excited, and I got myself into too much trouble and kind of messed up. I was always focusing really hard on making sure that my teams were right and that I wasn't underestimating them. Mm-hmm. But I definitely didn't do that a couple times.
That, especially like when you're first starting out too, that could be something that after that initial loss versus Tiller maybe helped you reorient yourself too in how you approach things. That definitely applies, at least to me. For example, in Smash, like if I lose versus someone, I'm like, okay, let me slow down and like reorient myself. But yeah, okay, so we're gonna move to the individual battles, and I know you didn't fight these, so I'll just go through these really quickly, and then we'll go to when you acquired the team. So this first battle is Great Tacticians versus Grand Island Jolteons. Really, it was like kind of a standard battle. It was just pretty much trades back and forth. I rewatched the battle, and there was some big kills by Marowak and Thunderous, but overall it seemed like a really standard battle, and Kuro won that one by a comfortable margin. In the next battle versus Wooper Blooper, it actually could have gone really bad for Kuro if he decided, if Lion Hugs had decided to stay in with Dragonite when it was at +1 versus Florges. I think the switch out of Dragonite was a bad idea, and Lion Hugs and I had talked to each other after the match, and Lion Hugs had confirmed to me that that was the same thought process that they had. So I wonder how differently the battle would have gone with that. But because of that, Florges proved to be a real thorn in the side of Wooper Blooper, being able to wall a lot of different attacks and come in safely, and then also provide Wish to other Pokemon. So I think that was like the main glue to the team in this battle. And then Mega Absol was able to get quite a few kills, but I'd say actually the defensive utility of Florges was maybe even more important than how offensive Mega Absol went. And so after that battle, Kuro decided to trade Mienshao for Swellow, which actually surprised me a lot because Mienshao did really good in the match it was in. But it made sense to me because having both Mienshao and Passimian both are pivots that are supposed to be like mainly reliant on chip damage from U-turn, it made sense because they had too similar of a role. And Swellow was actually really good as a fast special attacker addition to this team, so I think that was actually a really smart move. And Passimian being tier 5 actually really surprises me, because Passimian is actually really good. I don't know why it's in tier 5. I would expect at least tier 4. But yeah, so this was a pretty smart trade in my opinion. And then Drampaw for Gastrodon, another smart trade. Kuro never used Drampaw, and I'm not really sure fully what it's actually capable of, because I never really used it myself and never really saw it. Does look like it has a good special attack stat. But Gastrodon is a beast, especially defensively, and can handle bulky water types really well. So I think that was also a pretty decent trade. We actually move on to the next match, which is Mystical Chain versus Great Tacticians, me being Noelle from Mystical Chain. This match, 90% of the match was me PP stalling the Ferrothorn with Soft Boiled and Recover. When he stayed in with Ferrothorn and did not want to switch out, I was just like, okay, I guess I'll just recover against you until you run out of Power Whips. So what I basically did was scouted the Ferrothorn's moveset, found that its only attack was Power Whip, PP stalled the Power Whip, and then brought Lycanroc in to set up on Ferrothorn when it no longer had any attack moves. And that's basically how I won. I was able to sweep with Lycanroc Duskenough to take down all the Pokemon except Cloyster. And then with Cloyster, I just used Mach Punch and then it went down. So that one was an interesting battle because half the battle, no, sorry, not half, like 90% of the battle pretty much was a snooze fest, and then it went from 0 to 100 really fast. I actually misplaced the MVP picture. But the next battle is the Great Tacticians versus American Braviaries. This is actually Kuro's last battle in the league. And like I had previously discussed in the American Braviaries video, the American Braviaries were leading, I'd say 80% of this battle. It was a 6-3 lead, and Kuro was able to dance around the Dusclops enough to be able to send in Zygarde at an opportune time, and when Substitute came up, and it started to coil, that's when everything started to change, and Zygarde went for the sweep. And it did so very effectively, considering there was no resistance to Thousand Arrows aside from Tapu Bulu. So Zygarde can be quite the beast once it sets up, and we see that in the fact that it actually got the MVP title in Week 4. This drawing by calling it, it's moving forward automatically too. So yeah, it was the MVP of Week 4, did really well. And right before Kuro transferred the team over to Benji, he made a final trade, trading in Bastiodon for Go-Goat. Bastiodon never being used, and Go-Goat, I believe, also never to be used. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you ever used Go-Goat.
Yeah, I kind of underestimated like both Cloyster and Go-Goat and also Florges, which I wish I used a lot more because that thing's a beast.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, that's one thing I was a little bit surprised about, actually, that you didn't use Florges that much. But yeah, we could actually move in to the team that you obtained now. So we have the team that you obtained here on the screen. What did you think when you first got this team?
I knew pretty much nothing about most of these Pokemon. I was pretty much very excited for Ferrothorn because I always loved him back when I played Pokemon Black and White. And I knew Zygarde was really powerful, and my brother told me many times that a lot of these Pokemon are actually really, really good. And I kind of wish I used like a good half of them more. Like Swellow, which I heard was very powerful. I wish I used more, and I kind of wish I used Marowak Alola a lot more, because that thing is powerful, and I feel like I could have done much better.
Is there a reason that you didn't make any exchanges when you first obtained the team?
I don't know. I was really still confused about everything that was going on. Still kind of am, but I felt like this team had promise, and that if I was able to use it correctly, I would be able to do well with it. I don't know why I didn't switch out Go-Goat and Cloyster if I thought they weren't good and stuff.
That's interesting that you thought that about Cloyster, because when I went against this team, literally the Pokemon I feared most was Cloyster. But that's because I was running a semi-passive team versus him, so Cloyster can set up easily if you're not like an immediate offensive threat. But you actually, not only did you not make any exchanges when you received the team, but you never made any exchanges, period, once you got the team. So, yeah. Did you feel comfortable with this team after using it, that you thought, I'm not going to exchange anything?
Yeah, I noticed that this team was like, it had a lot of really good Pokemon, and Pokemon that I doubted, which I will probably never do again. Saying that kind of messed me up, but I felt like this team was really powerful, and that I shouldn't exchange anything just in case to not make anyone else too powerful.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was a good choice, not exchanging, especially considering Kuro had made exchanges prior that really made the team a little bit more balanced. So yeah, it was interesting that you didn't make any exchanges. I actually never made any exchanges to my team either, so yeah, we're kind of similar in that respect. Is there any Pokemon that you first obtained and didn't know what to do with, and then as you went on, you figured out?
Yeah, Celebi. I never knew what to do with them, and until that one thing where I took out 3 Pokemon on someone else's team.
Yeah, and then you're like,
half of the sweep. And I pretty much knew nothing about most of these Pokemon except for Vikavolt, Ferrothorn, and Alolan Marowak. Mainly because I used them on my teams back when I played like Pokemon like pretty passively.
Okay.
And everyone else, like I didn't even know who Passimian was because I never saw them in Pokemon Sun and Moon. And I don't know, I just doubted a lot of these Pokemon, and I never knew what they did.
Well, that makes it even more impressive how you did then, because Yeah, that's really not a lot of knowledge to have compared to a bunch of people who did have knowledge. So kudos. Um, we'll move into now your first match actually versus Downtown Darmanitan, which was Tiller's team. Your kind of trial run. So in this battle, you actually did manage to get a kill with Swellow versus Mandibuzz. Two birds kind of fighting it out. Were you aware? I'm sure you were warned of how hyper offensive Tiller's team was.
Yeah, I underestimated Darmanitan, and I don't know. I felt like because my brother helped me with this, who is like really good. He owns the American Braviaries. Still ridiculous of a name, but he owns that team, and he helped me as much as possible. And I feel like if this was his team, he would probably win. But then again, this Tiller was right when he would curb stomp me. I had no idea what I was doing pretty much all of that game.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I personally would have probably changed on your team, I think Gastrodon could have probably been switched for someone else in this particular battle. Just because Gastrodon can be a little bit of a momentum drain. It's slow and it doesn't hit that hard, and I think versus Tiller, hitting hard is really important because stalling him out is almost impossible. He just hits way too hard. But overall, I think it was a good team build overall for your first match, and it actually, like you said earlier, I think you said your first match, maybe you had a different mindset, and you were able to kind of pick up that mindset moving forward.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad he beat me that hard, because that made me understand that this is the real deal and I need to actually focus.
And with that understanding, we're going to move into Elemental Dragons, and you went from a -5 to a +5. So,
yeah, kind of surprising to me.
So, in this battle, there was a little bit of a lucky moment when Moltres missed the Hurricane. I think that was a moment that was very unlucky for King Fuse, but that also is the risk of running Hurricane or Fire Blast and things like that. If you miss, that's it. That's why, like, I almost never run Stone Edge. I'm like, nah, I don't want to miss in a pivotal moment. But once Moltres was gone, and it reflects in the differential, Ferrothorn was able to come out and play.
Yeah, that kind of made me like respect and trust Ferrothorn a lot.
Yeah, I think you used Ferrothorn very comfortably in that match. I forgot. Do you remember what moves you were running on Ferrothorn?
I believe it was the same moves I always pretty much use on him. It was, hold on, I have the team here. Leech Seed, Stealth Rock, Power Whip, and Gyro Ball, which is godly on Ferrothorn.
Gyro Ball, yeah, Gyro Ball especially is really good on Ferrothorn in this matchup because it hits almost everything really hard.
It obliterated pretty much all of his team, especially Kyurem Black.
Yeah, Kyurem
like,
and Sandslash.
That thing scared me.
Yeah, actually, surprisingly, Kyurem Black is scary, but versus your team, I actually don't think it's really that good. Because Ferrothorn pretty much walls it, Gastrodon pretty much walls it, and, well, it's just those two. But Passimian can close combat it too, so it's actually not that good versus your team, but it's still a very scary Pokemon. For sure. I think Moltres was really the one Pokemon he wanted to use versus you, and once it was down, that was it. Let's see. We got Rio Grande Rapidash next. And this one was a 2-2, where it was pretty close, honestly. You lost not by that big a margin.
Oh, yeah.
What?
This was the one. Sorry to interrupt. This was the one where I got salty, and I said that if he that because of those two freezes that he kind of won. When my brother told me the risk of using Gastrodon against his Cryogonal when he could have Freeze Dry.
Yeah, Freeze Dry on Cryogonal destroys Gastrodon. There was a moment, I forgot what it was, but I remember after that match, I remember when you said the thing about the freeze. I actually don't think the freeze was that significant.
Yeah.
I think it was something else, but I forgot what it was. But there was one moment that something happened that was a little lucky. I don't remember. Maybe it was a crit or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because one time there was a freeze when when one of the Pokemon was almost gone, and then another time when there was a low chance of freezing, they froze me, and I kind of lost because of that.
Yeah, I think this was the time where, like, the Pokemon was almost gone anyways. So, Cryogonal actually being one of the key Pokemon in this one, as well as Rapidash, I think was really surprising for Ember, because I don't think he was expecting those two Pokemon to be really good in this matchup, but they actually were. When Rapidash... What was your plan for Rapidash specifically? Was it Gastrodon?
It was mainly Gastrodon and Zygarde 50%. And if things got dire, I would use Ferrothorn, because I kind of made him tanky against special attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much, I feel like my team couldn't have done much against him. Even Florges wouldn't have done well against him.
Yeah, now that I look at it, Rapidash and Cryogonal actually have really good synergy versus your team, because if your plan was Gastrodon and Zygarde versus Rapidash, Cryogonal beats both of those very comfortably. So that's probably why those two Pokemon were the most pivotal for him. But overall, it still wasn't a bad loss for you. It was really close still in the end.
It's kind of salty, I think.
Yeah, sometimes losing the close ones is a little bit harder than losing the like absolute sweeps where you had no hope.
Except for the last one, that was pretty depressing for me.
The last one was versus Startoad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, his team is intense. Alright, we're moving into Appleton Allegiance, and this is another one of those really close ones. I think at the end, actually, with Passimian, if you selected close combat instead of knockoff, I think that you would have won.
Yeah, he was choice scarfed, so I couldn't have done anything. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. When I saw you use knockoff again, I was like, oh yeah, that's game. But aside from that one mistake, that was a really well fought battle between both sides. Was this one that you really like figured out how to use Celebi?
Yeah, this one, and I guess the last one kind of helped, but like it made me realize this thing is it isn't even a glass cannon, and it's just a cannon because it can tank a lot of things. Yeah,
as long as it doesn't have to take a bug move, it's surprisingly sturdy.
Which there isn't many on this team, I believe. Well, except for Scizor, but I took that thing down pretty easily. Yeah,
just Scizor. But yeah, really close battle there. It was down to the wire, so really good performance. And now we have the match actually versus the Canopy Defenders. Another close battle. So I think overall you had some of the closest battles in this league, both when you won and when you lost.
This team scared me the most.
Which is interesting because this one you won against. So what about this team was really scary to you?
Well, I knew I couldn't really counter that Mega Charizard X well. And the Garchomp, which was also scary. And just, I don't know, there's a lot of Pokemon that was really scary on this team that I feel like I couldn't counter.
Yeah, Mega Charizard X I think was probably your biggest problem on this team, because once Gastrodon was down, I was like, okay, what do I do?
The reason why I won this battle is because I got a Sucker Punch that crit with Mega Absol, and that took him down, because the non-crit probably wouldn't have killed it.
Yeah, honestly, that was extremely lucky. I'm not gonna lie, that was very lucky.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I don't really know what other way. Maybe if Ferrothorn had died to Flare Blitz and Flare Blitz did enough damage in recoil after the Sucker Punch plus the Iron Barbs, that might have actually been enough to take down Charizard, so you still had a chance, but it was definitely not the chance you had after the Sucker Punch.
This was the one that I was surprised most by.
Yeah, that's Pokemon for you. Anything could happen. Once Charizard was down, though, you did play this one really well. Charizard was probably the most threatening toward your team. I think Nihilego also posed a little bit of a threat, but you took that down with Zygarde, didn't you? Yeah.
I think I took it. Yeah, it was either Zygarde or Ferrothorn.
Yeah, one of those two. Ferrothorn,
yeah,
I know,
it was
hit
Zygarde.
Mimikyu, and then Zygarde, yeah, Zygarde took Nihilego down. But strong performance, and Edgar's a really strong battler. Definitely made me sweat when I faced him. And then I believe Detroit Dunsparces was the last one. Yeah, because you were both fighting for the slot in the playoffs. So, you mentioned you had underestimated Goodra.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting Goodra to be such a powerful opponent.
Yeah, Goodra's big thing is that special defense is just sky high. So you really have to hit it on the defensive side, and you didn't have that many ways to do that. I think only Marowak was really the only reliable Pokemon you could hit it with on the defensive side. What did you prepare for when you were preparing for Startoad's team?
Mainly Zapdos and Mega Swampert. Celesteela was also, I don't know, all of them were pretty much mainly a problem. I even kind of prepared for Goodra by bringing out Celebi with Play Rough.
Dazzling Gleam, you mean?
Yeah, no, yeah, Dazzling Gleam. I'm thinking of Mega Absol.
Yeah, Play Rough on Mega Absol actually might have been able to kill it, but Celebi Dazzling Gleam, because of its special defense just being so high, even that is not gonna do that much. Goodra's special defense is just insane. But yeah, this was a very high stakes match for you because it was basically your gateway into the playoffs. Ultimately, you didn't get into the playoffs, but you did get really close. And I think with what you learned in the league, if you were to enter a future one, I definitely think you'd have a shot of getting in. Especially with how fast you learned, and with the fact that you'd be able to draft a team that works for you. Not saying that this team didn't work for you, but one that you could craft on your own.
Yeah, which I'm scared of, because I feel like I wouldn't do well with this, with the team drafting.
I'm gonna make a video actually, having some elements of what to watch out for in drafting and like what cores you should have and things like that. So hopefully that helps, because a lot of people asked me like, how did you team build and things like that. So I'm gonna try to make a video before the next league so that could help. And then just consulting other people, like you said, you were talking with your brother a lot. That kind of stuff helps. Talking to other people and getting their feedback on what you, on maybe like Pokemon cores to use and stuff like that. Just note that like people probably won't suggest Pokemon that they want to you.
Yeah.
So keep all your options open. Alright, so speaking of Pokemon, we're moving into the Pokemon. So we see here the Pokemon sorted by their differential and how they did. This includes Kuro and you. So overall, Celebi and Zygarde did the best, and then Gastrodon performed the worst. So out of these Pokemon, were there any Pokemon that surprised you, or that you thought, I don't know about using this, but then you used it and a different result happened? Or maybe some that you thought, wow, this is really strong, and then you used it and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting, I really wish I used Zygarde more powerfully and smarter, and Swellow too, and even Florges, but I feel like there's a lot of Pokemon that I doubted, and I feel like I overused Gastrodon. I mainly used him as a tanker, and there's just a lot of Pokemon I feel like I could have done much better with. But Ferrothorn and Zygarde and Celebi, which I knew like pretty much nothing about, except for when I fought against them and stuff in the actual games. I wasn't expecting him to be so powerful.
Yeah, Zygarde, especially with the final match Kuro had before he passed the team on to you, Zygarde can be extremely powerful. Actually, it's one of the only Pokemon in the league that had a 100% usage rate. I think there was 7 out of all the Pokemon that were used every single time. Zygarde and Ferrothorn, both really powerful. I think Gastrodon is a good Pokemon, but it has to be used very specifically. I don't think it should be used as a wall in general. It has to be a counter to specific Pokemon, those specific Pokemon usually being water types. It's bulky, but not bulky enough to take super strong neutral hits, in my opinion. I think Passimian actually was really good for you. It's very versatile. It can do a lot of different things, honestly. Passimian is one that I think you used well. And let me see, what else? Yeah, looking through these, I think the one that actually stood out to me was Passimian the most. Swellow, I'm actually surprised was only used once, but how did you did you ever get to fire off a Boom Burst from Swellow?
Yeah, I think that might have been the reason why I got the win against, or not the win, but the defeat against that Mandibuzz. But I don't know, I definitely underestimated that Pokemon, even when my brother told me that it was really, really powerful.
Yeah, Swellow is really good. I definitely recommend looking into Swellow more. Was there any Pokemon that you just didn't like using?
I don't know. I felt like Vikavolt could have been really powerful. If I always expected him to be much faster. If he was faster, he would be much more powerful. But I never. I don't know. I always thought he was a little underused. Well, he was overused in my opinion, because I just couldn't use him right.
That is the Alola curse.
Yeah.
Being good in all the other stats, but then not being fast enough to be viable, but not being slow enough to be Trick Room. There's a lot of Pokemon from Alola that have that curse.
And kind of not really Passimian though. His speed is pretty good.
Kind of. Passimian pretty much requires a Choice Scarf to be fast.
Yeah,
that's
what I had to
Passimian.
use.
Yeah. But overall, I think the Pokemon team was really interesting. A lot of good synergy, and I think you used it well for being handed it not having prior experience with most of those Pokemon. So kudos for that, honestly. I think that you definitely found a groove and a good foray into Pokemon competitive if you want to continue learning more. I think you built a good foundation. So we're just gonna go into some final thoughts here. Actually, speaking of Pokemon and a competitive foundation, I wanted to know, what are some things that this league taught you, or that you learned, or how has your perspective shifted in terms of Pokemon by participating in this league?
It taught me to pretty much never underestimate or overestimate anyone. Sometimes it's okay to overestimate them, but it always taught me to I always need to never underestimate people in Pokemon, I guess too. But this really opened my eyes about how I could have done better if I didn't underestimate guys.
Yeah, especially in Draft League, it's not like General where you could fight against anything. Each Pokemon on the team does have its purpose, I think. Even the tier 5s, even the ones that nobody expects, sometimes the fact that nobody expects it in itself is a very good asset. So, yeah, that's definitely something I encourage you to continue thinking as you move forward, see everything as a potential threat and as a potential asset for yourself. So that's also something. In terms of Pokemon, like meta or like certain strategies that come with Pokemon, is there anything that you picked up on?
It was pretty much just like, like to inspect all Pokemon and like to just understand what they're like, and I guess they did to get like taught how to like play competitively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
continue.
Sorry, it go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you'll pick up some more stuff as you go on, especially from different people and seeing how they play. Like, for example, if you look at Quest, he's a very momentum-based player. He likes to pivot a lot with U-turn and Volt Switch. If you look at Tiller, you could learn some of the things about hyper offense. So just things like that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask another thing. Was there any team that you didn't face, or maybe you did face, that you were really intrigued by, or that you liked the composition of, or maybe you were like, oh my gosh, this team is intense, I'm glad I don't have to face it, or something like that?
It was actually your team I was scared of most.
Really?
Because I knew, yeah, because like my brother always told me, and Kuro too, he told me that like your team is not only strong, but you know how to use all the characters really well, and that just terrified me, being a newcomer.
That's interesting. Well, since I had fought Kuro already, there was no possibility of us fighting outside of the playoffs.
Kinda glad. Took a bullet for me.
That's interesting, though. When I look at my team, I guess I don't see it as threatening as it is, just because I see, like, my babies, so I'm like, oh yeah, they're babies, but yeah, a few people have told me that it's a scary team, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess it is then. But yeah, if you ever want to face my team unofficially, you are welcome to challenge it. I think I had one more question. Well, I guess my question would be, are there any final thoughts that you have about the league, about anything about Pokemon, anything at all?
I just thought it was really well organized, and how well everyone figured out the times they could play with, and it was just cool learning everyone's strategies, and just making new friends kind of.
Yeah, I agree. I like that it's within a community that already exists, and it's with people that for the most part have interacted with each other and stuff. It's not just a bunch of random people who if they get mad, they're just like, okay, I'm gonna leave, or something like that. I think that's one of the big problems. I've been looking at other leagues and how they're organized, and one of the biggest problems seems to be that there's a high dropout rate, and I feel like because it's in a community that's already been established, where people have already made contact with each other for the most part, people aren't gonna drop out because they have that, it's a community, so they don't want to tarnish that reputation they've built, or they don't want to be inconsiderate to their friends, or they want to try because they have people that they know and they're friends with people. It's not just random people. So I think that's a really big asset that we have personally in the Victory Road Draft League. Do you think that you would be interested in joining draft leagues down the line in the future?
Yeah, definitely. Because it's nice to talk to people and kind of get to know them better. But I would also like to get better at competitive Pokemon, and just really learn stuff.
Well, this is definitely the place to do it. It's taught me a lot. It's taught a lot of people, I think, a lot of different strategies and new things, both in Pokemon and about themselves and how they play and how confident they could be. And I really like seeing that growth. And honestly, I'm really glad that you joined. Obviously, I'm not happy that Kuro had to drop out. It was unfortunate that he did. But I'm glad that you were able to come in and fill in for him. And I'm glad to see that growth that you talked to me about. How you were able to learn new things and gain new perspectives, and I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. I think we're all glad that you joined us, and I'm definitely looking forward to if you join any other leagues of ours in the future. I think it'll be really fun.
Me too.
Last question, I guess. Would you still be the Star Conquerors if you're in a future league, or would you do a different logo, different name?
I would probably keep the Star Conquerors, if not just name, like, I don't know, rename it something not as cringy to me. I think it's fine.
There was the Star Conquerors was the name I think that you had submitted to me, and then when Jacob had made the logo, I think it said the Star Crusaders, and I was like, wait, is it Conquerors or Crusaders?
It just, Jacob got confused, I'm guessing, with JoJo.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, and then he changed it back, but yeah, I still just find it so funny. Every time I see this logo, I just think, like, Benji snapped Marks out of the picture. Like, Marks just deleted. But yeah, really fun having you, and I'm really glad we got to do this interview and that you got to participate. Definitely looking forward to more of your participation in future leagues. And yeah, thanks for joining me in the interview.
Yep.
Alright, tune in for some more team analysis videos. There are still 10 more teams for me to analyze, so thank you for listening to this conversation with Benji about the Star Conquerors. And until next time, I will see you then. This was Noel from Mystical Chain, and I'll be doing more team analysis videos in the future, so stay tuned.